It is a very, very interesting song we just heard. And the name which comes up to me is Dr. Henry Walton Indiana Jones. Marcelo, why have you chosen this inspiring song?
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure, and congratulations on the work you've been doing for such a long time and what you're doing in the future. And the song is from your question, actually, something representative from my childhood. And this one is actually going beyond just the motivation to do different things and to challenge yourself. Is actually because the original Indiana Jones was the president of the Explorers Club, and I'm the chairman of the club in Switzerland. So if you go to our New York clubhouse, you have a showcase of lots of artifacts from our members going out in the field for 120 years now. And you can see the original bullwhip of the original Indiana Jones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we had our meeting last week for the annual meeting of the members. We also have the meeting of all the chapter chairs, and they were passing this artifact around so people could literally touch the bullwhip of the original Indiana Jones during that event. Otherwise, you can go there anytime to see it. And the idea is the combination of science with adventure and challenging yourself and going further and dealing with adversity. So I thought that would be the most representative. And it's also a good opportunity for me to promote the Explorers Club, which is something I always love to do.
So they bring us straight ahead into the talk with you. And I'm very, very happy to welcome you, Marcelo, here in the show. And with this song, we already touched a very important part of your life, I think. And give me the chance to try to introduce you here to the audience, which will be very hard, especially to do it in a few minutes. Because I mean, saying that you are a bit of Indiana Jones would be too little, I think. I mean, I don't know you good enough to know if you have also the sarcastic sense of humor, but I'm sure that you explored so many countries as Indiana Jones did too. 125, I think it is until now. And I think you experienced so many adventures during your life, from flying, from hunting, from climbing, from diving. I'm very interested to hear later more about that. But furthermore, you are also very close to the World Economic Forum, to the United Nations. You are involved in ventures, especially a venture partner at Allocator One. You are also advisor to at least Untold and Straightline Aviation. You are founder of Wisdom Foundation, which is also addicted to your personal life, I think, or you told me a little bit about that. And you're the member of the WEF official community, and you are organizing every year in Davos a really outstanding program. Besides this, what the officials get there to open their view, to give them some other ideas, also what life means and what the planet matters, right? So, and I liked it very much also that you gave me a hack from last week to today, that I could try to see how I deal with this. What you said, that you take everything as a symbol, everything what comes up. Also, if you don't get a train, if you wake up too late, if you miss something, it embeds a sign. And I have to say, I'm living like this, or I'm trying to live like this most of the time, and it feels good, because it's much better than having the self-fulfilling prophecy like, oh, that's the first thing happened. Let's see what bad things come next. Which often people think about, right? So let's dive into your life. And I mean, it's hard to compress it into these very few minutes we have today. But maybe we can start with the first questions. What brought you to today? So can you share with us a few milestones? And maybe there's one milestone you can share with us before the first break.
Yeah, I'd like to propose something different here. You have the epigenetic changes. So you have your DNA, and then you have changes to the DNA from experiences that your ancestors had. So this is not esoteric at all. It is fairly scientific in terms of genes being expressed or not. And I would say my ancestors, in this case, more specifically my two grandfathers, because my father's father was a technology pioneer. So he was not adventurous at all. He was just someone who was extremely good with telecommunications. He was a telegraph operator with the Brazilian Navy, coming from Spain, from the Basque Country, because I guess back then they didn't have anyone in Brazil who knew how to operate a telegraph. And because he had that experience, he started developing things like building the first commercial radio in Rio in 1935. So a local aristocrat thought it was a fancy thing to do, and he was the one building it. Right? So it's quite common that when you start doing something pioneering, you get involved in the next pioneering level. So he went from wireless telegraph with the Navy to a commercial radio, and then my father got involved in analog television after an internship at this radio station, and then I got involved with digital television. So it's quite amusing that the family has been in telecommunications for 100 years. And that was not necessarily something that was planned. Right? In the case of my dad working for my grandfather, sure, but no, I could have done anything else. It just happens to end up in the same field. So you have this scientific angle doing something that has just recently been invented. It works in a lab. How can you develop a platform that will have a million users, right? So I like the platform we have here with millions of listeners. So how do you go from lab to that situation? And then you have on the other side, my mother's father. He was not necessarily an explorer, but he was in the Amazon. He was born in Portugal in a small village. And when he was 12 years old, he went alone across the Atlantic Ocean with one letter of recommendation to a shoemaker in Manaus. And by himself, he's 12 years old, and he is on the back of the ship crying because he's so afraid, but he doesn't want anyone to see that. So his life in Amazon was very much that of an explorer. No, he was a tradesman going to the small villages upstream, very isolated places, getting malaria several times and everything else. So what I have is this epigenetic combination of deep science with deep adventure and exploration in the jungle. And I guess it explains a lot about behavior.
Thank you very much. I think it's even more interesting now to hear more of you and your journey. I would like to step also more into your journey once again, into this journey of being an explorer. And you said in the beginning that you have some Indiana Jones products, also at least one in London, I think, or in the Explorer's office, or can you explain?
So the New York Clubhouse.
In your clubhouse, okay.
He's called the Roy Chapman Andrews. So he was an explorer 100 years ago in Inner Mongolia when China was an extremely dangerous place. So he had a revolver, but he liked the bullwhip. So if people tried to steal from him, he used the bullwhip to keep them away, and he had the revolver just in case the things escalated. So that's a true story. And he kind of had the same hat and the leather jacket and everything else. So he's not the only inspiration, but it's certainly one of the main ones.
But you could have an own clubhouse filled, I think, with the products of your adventures, right?
Oh, not so many. And what happens in the club is that people tend to specialize because more than half of the members are fellows, so they tend to have a PhD or more. What I did was a sample of different types of exploration. So I got into the club because I'm retracing the route of Marco Polo between Venice in Beijing. So
Mhm.
I had different experiences in different places. So yeah, there's some sort of artifacts in terms of the clothes I was wearing and the experiences that I had in that process. There's a funny story in Acre, which was the last city in the Palestinian region, so Israel today. It was the last one held by the Crusaders
Yeah.
in the 12th century. And that was a very important part of the Marco Polo journey, because he had to wait there for a new pope to be elected so that they could keep on going to Mongolia. And there is restaurant that is open 24 hours with the old town, which still has this very Arabic feel. They never close. So I'm there at whatever 1, 2 in the morning, waiting for the next connection. And there was this shisha, so this
Mhm.
water pipe, nargile, some people call that. And I thought it would be really cool to have the original nargile from the city where Marco Polo was based for quite some time, and was asking the owner via a translator if it was possible to buy it. And he got angry. He was like, "No, this is not for sale. This is no like or no cutlery, right? So why would you want to buy something from the restaurant?" And
Yeah.
I explained the whole story via this very young waiter who was doing this translation. Said, "No, it's related to the Marco Polo journey. So it literally, this is an artifact for me of my project." And he sold it to me. It was a bit of a nightmare to carry 3 kilos of glass back to Switzerland, but I still have it, and it's totally worth it. So yeah, the
Wow.
mementos, like keeping something that is symbolic, I think is very important. And of course, it's easier to get stamps as souvenirs rather than 3 kilos of glass. But if you get to choose, just pick the one that suits you.
And is it something when you look at it that you feel some emotions of your journey, or you get some stories from the past, or what does it mean to you when you look at this now?
Well, the way the brain tends to work is with the reinforcement of certain
Yeah.
memories. Every time I look at it, I'm making sure that that story never leaves me, right? So every
Yeah.
time I refresh it, I can travel back to, I think this was 10 years ago, and sense the smells and the sights and all the different imagery. And that's an object
Right.
that is a marker that
Mhm.
helps my brain find those memories. And the more I go there, the stronger they
Yeah.
become. So the one thing that I do that some people find quite odd is when I'm traveling around and I'm having a beer, I always remove the label of the beer,
Yeah.
so I only have beer in a bottle if I can't help it. And on the back of the label, I consider it to be a postcard to myself in the future. So write the
Oh,
date, the location, who I was with, and what we talked about. And then I keep it in
right.
a box. So 20, 30 years from now, when I read that postcard to myself, I will
Yeah.
remember that specific occasion without needing any pictures. Right? Even if sometimes you have pictures, sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
The most memorable meetings we have in our lives, you don't do selfies, you don't keep track of that as a media occasion. And
Mhm.
yeah, it would be nice to be able to go back to that moment of whatever it meant to you. And I
Yeah.
figured out that beer labels or something I could put in my wallet, and then I have a little description of what happened. And yeah, I have more than 1,000 of them, which says a lot about how many beers I had in my life.
I have a box for that where I take all these small stones or things I get somewhere which reminds me to a situation. Do you have then also a huge box for this postcards where you
Yeah.
collect all this and take it out sometimes and read it, look at it?
Well, it's not so often. The idea is keeping them
Mhm.
for the future, so it's kind of a heirloom to myself. The logic being it's a small piece of paper, right? So I can
Yeah,
have additional information on the back.
yeah,
And I really miss sending postcards. When I traveled, I used to send postcards all the time. So a friend of mine is talking about Mauritania today. And after the World Economic Forum in 2019, it was so stressful because I was doing a big event for the first time that I ended up in Marrakesh for a follow-up event with some friends. And out of the blue, I thought, well, maybe I should cross the Sahara just to have the experience. And it's not really easy. And I was not doing that on the back of a camel, right? I'm going from Marrakesh all the way to Mauritania. And the public infrastructure is horrendously bad and it's fairly dangerous. And you never know what's going to work or not. And when I got to Mauritania, after crossing the Sahara, like the easy way to cross the Sahara, I guess. I was trying to send a postcard and didn't have any because it's a very poor country. It's one of the 10 least visited countries in the world. So I literally had to take a picture of the traditional boats in the harbor, and I made a drawing of my own picture. So
Nice.
I can send it to you as sharing, my friend.
Please.
So like, okay, you want to share a moment, and postcards used to be the way to do that. And now we're just sending pictures on WhatsApp, and that's one more picture in thousands of them. So they lose the significance. And all of a sudden, we sort of back 360 to the fact that if you get a postcard, it's really, really special. It's like, wow, no, I haven't had a postcard for years. So I keep on sending postcards.
That's great. That's a great ritual. I know some people who are sending always postcards, whether to themselves from different places or also to their closest friend. And I often receive postcards, handwritten postcards from friends, and it means a lot to me because I know that in these times a lot of people are really struggling with hand typing, and besides this, hand typing is so important to express yourself and also to have this as a kind of ritual, but also I think it's good for your brain to doing it, right?
Yeah, and it's a marker of effort, right? As in sending a picture in WhatsApp takes you 5 seconds. So sending a postcard means finding one, which in Mauritania apparently is not a possibility, or drawing one, which is what I had to do. But then again, I have to find the paper that is thick enough to be able to draw a postcard, and that was not easy. And then you have to find the stamps, right? You can't really send it without the stamps. And people are laughing when I was looking for stamps. They go like, why do you need stamps for? It's like, oh, well, a few uses for them. You kind of end up showing that you care because of the time invested, right? So you making sure that people realize that this is something that was a conscious decision. And another example is that I am the chairman of the chapter here, so I have to communicate with all the members of the Explorers Club in Switzerland. There is one who's 90 years old, and he doesn't have email, or I mean, I'm assuming he has a phone at home, but someone who's a friend sent me a message saying he cannot get your email, so could you print them and send them by post? Like, yeah, that's my duty as the person responsible for representing the club here. So I literally have right next to me an email that was printed, and I'm going to be posting it to our 90-year-old member so that he can be aware of what we're doing, even if he's
This is
joining
nice.
our events, because we do things like, traversing glaciers over the weekends. It's not like he'll be able to join us in doing those things, but he can join us in spirit. And the channel to communicate with someone at his age is printing emails and putting them in an envelope and sending them, which is what I'm doing after this call.
Great. This is a very, very nice story. And I think it shows also the respect and respect to somebody, and choosing the communication way, the way of communicating the other person is getting. I mean, often in nowadays times, we are communicating in the way we think, which is good, but not where we think that the other person can get it in the way which is useful, which is sensible, which is adequate to him or her.
Yeah. Also, the understanding that maybe he has poor eyesight, right? Because of the age. Maybe there are some other complications, but sometimes it's a positive surprise. Like when you operate for cataract, so your eyes are cloudy to the point in which it is no longer reasonable for you to carry on without doing surgery. They inserts lenses into your eyes, and that could actually fix some visual problems. So you can have then the degree for reading glasses inside your eyeballs, meaning you no longer need reading glasses even though you're very old. So sometimes, of course, we link age to wisdom. So, okay, you've been around for very long, so you can see certain dots that other people will not be able to even realize that were there, much less connect them. And it is surprising that you could have a 90-year-old person who can actually read better than I can, because I need reading glasses now. So it's not necessarily always negative. It's trying to understand how is it different? How can I connect to the frequency of the person that I'm trying to communicate with? And that could be an interesting challenge. And most people, it's not like they're lazy, they're just busy, right? So they do not spend enough time to show that they care at the next level. You can show that you care, sure, like copying someone an email, but sending the letter is something that is obviously an additional amount of effort. And that's just an example, right? Something that is my duty to do to communicate with members in the chapter. But I would suggest people try to the one act of kindness a day. It's like, what's your act of kindness today? Is that spending an extra minute trying to show to someone that you care, you appreciate the person? It could be you buying a train ticket and you make a joke, right? Just to make the person who is selling you the train ticket smile, because usually they only get complaints. And you go, can I give you something that maybe will make your life a little bit easier that costs me a joke? Like it literally costs you nothing, or comments something saying, wow, it was supposed to be cloudy and it's really sunny, so I hope you have time to enjoy the sun later on. Many people I know would do that. Many do not, and they don't realize that when you're making someone smile, you're benefiting from that as well. Like you get a little dopamine jolt from doing something that has value to others. And I feel like this is almost like leaving money on the table, right? So you can have very enjoyable, rewarding sensations, which are completely under your control, like making that joke or not. But most people, they're too busy to think about that, and I think it's sad because they're missing out and having a more fulfilling life.
Exactly, you're so right. And I wanted to ask you for 3 hacks. I mean, this is a very important one, I think, which is free of charge even, but it gives both people, everyone, it gives a smile, it gives a better day, it gives even some physical plus, because your blood circulation gets better, you get into a better mood, your immune system provides from that, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, it's sometimes you have people who have naturally grumpy faces, so they look like they're angry all the time. It doesn't mean that this is who they are. It's just the physical appearance, right? Especially as you get older, you start having some expressions that look sad because you know your face, naturally will start sagging, so it looks like you're a very serious person. It's a nice experience to figure out that maybe that person who looks very angry is someone with a wonderful journey, right? So if you basically give them a chance to establish a connection at the frequency, which is, I care about you as a person, not as a service provider, you're going to have more rewarding experiences. So I do suggest people try.
You're so right. And Marcelo, I don't feel really well now because I would like to double the time with you. And I think we need a series B with you because I have so many things on the table to ask you further, but unfortunately we're running out of time. So it's just for me now to thank you very much indeed for this engaging discussion, for the insights you gave us, and that you opened your books a little bit to show a little bit of this inspiration you can provide to all of us. And I look forward to our ongoing exchange and the impact also we can do together. So thank you very much again to be here in the show, and open your box for all of us.
It's a real pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting.
And looking forward to seeing you soon.
Cheers.